चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Nectar of Instruction discussion. Last Friday, we began the discussion on the first verse of Updeshamrit. Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jivva Vegam Udarapasta Vegam Etan Vegan Yo Viseheta Dhiraha Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Sashishyat. So I went into the Bhaktivinoda Thakur analysis of this verse, that how this verse is Tridandi Swami Lakshan and self-control Madhyamadhikari symptoms. We went into the concept of what is a Vega, and then how that one urge of the mind is analyzed into six so that we can deal with them. And then we discussed why is Shama and Dama, which are not the limbs of Bhakti, Rup Goswami is telling us to control, because they are obstacles in the Sharanagati, which is the Anga of Bhakti. That's what we discussed. And then we started discussing the first two paragraphs, because the first two paragraphs speak about atonement. And we discussed how Prabhupada's purport abruptly begins with Parikshit Maharaj and Sukhdev Goswami discussing about, why do people atone if they cannot control their senses. So we just gave that background, and because ultimately, because of avidya, we don't have control over our senses, we commit sin and we suffer. Karma Shastras, the Dharma Shastras, recommend prashchita, but Parikshit Maharaj rejects this. Manne Kunjara Sauchavatis. Then there is the Jnana, which is Vimarshanam by Tapasya Brahmacharya, which will come to us very soon. But still the seeds of desires remain in the heart. That's why the example also given is Venu Gulma Ivanala. Just like the bamboos are burnt, but still, the bamboo shoots will come up. So the only process is to practice bhakti. And that is what is Prabhupada going to establish, and how to control these urges by engaging them in Krishna's service. So that's how we can control the Vegas. So that's how Prabhupada takes a discussion. So we read this paragraph about, you know, how there are four types of intelligence, and then we quoted this verse from the Bhagavatam. And then there are three types of people who commit, three examples: Kunjara Sauchvat, elephant bathing, chanting of Hare Krishna, and committing, you know, many offenses, Namno Baladiyasya Papuddhi, and the Christians. So all these three examples we discussed. And then we went into the Bhagavatam examples also, which is the discussion of the sixth canto, first chapter. Thief example is given, which Prabhupada quotes. The Kunjar Sauchavas is there, which Prabhupada also quotes. Then confessing of sin in church. So all these are Karmakanda examples. Then Tapasas, Brahmacharya, their cleanliness will come. But after or before that, this example is given, Venugulva and the liquor bottle is given. But for Bhakti, the example is the sun and the fog. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agan Dunvanti Karsneya Nihariva Bhaskara. So that is the example given. So now we will discuss from paragraph 2. That's what. So after karma is rejected, then jnana. Real atonement is coming to the platform of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said. Then after making that statement, in the next paragraph, he says, what is atonement? Coming to real knowledge, jnana. So after karma, Prabhupada is speaking about jnana here. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this, there is a standard process. When one follows a regulated hygienic process, he does not fall sick. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his original knowledge. Such a methodical life is called tapasya. So here is the definition of tapasya. When you are living certain principles, trained to live according to certain principles, so that you can revive your actual vidya and destroy vidya, that is called as tapasya. Now Prabhupada quotes this. One can be gradually elevated to the standard of real knowledge of Krishna consciousness by practicing austerity and celibacy, tapasya brahmacharya, by controlling the mind and by controlling the senses, shamena damenacha, by giving up one's possessions in charity, tyagena, by being avowedly truthful, satyabhyam, by keeping clean and practicing yogasanas, yamena niyamena cha. So I will go to the Veda base and show you this verse. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, first chapter, verses 13 and 14. This is a very famous verse also. Tapasya brahmacharena shamena cha damena cha tyagena satya sauchabhyam yamena niyamena va. Tapasya, austerity, brahmacharya, by practicing celibacy, shamena, control of the mind, damena, control of the senses, tyagena, by renouncing all possessions, satya, by being truthful, sauchabhyam, cleanliness, and then yamena, niyamena va. Yamena, niyamena is the yama niyam of the Ashtanga Yoga. And then Prabhupada doesn't quote this part because he only quotes, the process of jnana. देहवाग् बुद्धिजं धीरा धर्मज्ञा श्रद्धयान्विता क्षिपन्त्यगं महदपि वेणुगुल्म इवानल देहवाग buddhijam dhira. So, after describing all these processes performed by body, minds, and words and intelligence, dhira, one who is sober, dharmagya, fully imbued with the knowledge of religions, Shraddhayanvita, endowed with fire, Shipanti, destroys, Agam, all kinds of sinful, Mahadapi, even though we are a great and abominable. How? Example is Venu Gulmam, the dried creepers beneath the bamboo tree, Iva Anala. So you need not, light fire to the bamboo tree. You know, from the bamboo tree, from the, you know, branches, there are some kinds of leaves which fall below the bamboo tree, and they are dry leaves. You just put little fire, the whole bamboo plantation is gone, destroyed. So this is, the uh, verse translation. Prabhupada goes into all the processes. Before that, the example is, given. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured and the infection of the disease can move on. Similarly, if one follows the regulative principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses toward liberation from material contamination. So this is exactly the statement of tapasya given by Prabhupada. A human being is meant to be trained according to certain principles to revive his body such a methodically. When one follows a regulated hygiene procedure, he does not fall sick. So this is what Prabhupada is also saying. So practically, Prabhupada is paraphrasing 6, 1, 12, 13, and 14 here. Okay, so after giving Gyan as the method to become free from sins and be situated in knowledge, Sukdev Goswami is not satisfied at heart. And then, sorry, Parikshit Maharaj is not satisfied at heart. And then Sukdev Goswami quotes this verse. केचित् केवलया भक्त्या वासुदेव परायणाः अघं दुन्वन्ति कार्ष्णेः निहारम् इव भास्कर. So then only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service. Kechit kevalaya bhakti. Bhaktya. Kevalaya bhakti is pure devotional service. Can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. So one question we might have also, we have taken up to devotional service and still uh, the tendency to commit sin and fall trap to previous samskars is there, you know, because we are still not on the level of practicing pure devotional service. That is why, at least as sadhakas, we should take shelter of pure devotees who are completely Vasudeva Parayana. That is our hope. And then what? He can do this simply by discharging devotional, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Agham dhunvanti. Agham means sin. Dhunvansi means it is completely cleansed, destroys. Karsneya means completely. Prabhupada in the bracket is saying with no possibility that the sinful desires will revive. And the example is Niharam Iva Bhaskar. Just when the sun rises, all the fog is destroyed. It's not that the fog again comes back and the sun has to evaporate it. No. So that is a powerful process of bhakti which is compared to the sun. But it is what kind of bhakti? Kevalaya bhakti. And as sadhakas, if we are not at that level of complete surrender, sarva dharman parityaja, we should at least take shelter of a pure devotee who is 100% surrendered to Krishna, Vasudeva Parayana. That is most important. Now, Prabhupada, after speaking about the Gyan path of real atonement, he comes to the Bhakti path. Here he gives, however, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, see, Prabhupada is very clear. You have to somehow get the association of pure devotee. He can easily surpass all the practice of controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulative principle of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord under the directions of the bona fide spiritual master. So, two things are very important here. One is get an association of a pure devotee, and then uh, engaging in the service of the Lord under the directions of pure devotee. And then this easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. Now, Please carefully meditate on this statement. This easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami. Now, Rupa Goswami, nowhere in the verse, Vacho Vegam has mentioned, that one should engage the senses in Krishna's service. So, and Prabhupada now is saying that this easy process is recommended by Rupa Goswami of how to engage the senses in Krishna's service. Where it is recommended by Rupa Goswami? Where in the verse you see that? It looks like, how do you connect this? Anyone, any thoughts on this? Please share your thoughts. I would like to hear. Anyone? I hope you got the question clear first. That's very important. Anyone who has not understood the question also can raise your hand. Okay, so no hands raised. I'll have to ask. Jitendra Khatri Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
did you understand our question?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
What is the question? Can you repeat for all of us?
Prabhupada in the purport has said this easy process is being recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Yes.
There were the 2 points what he said. One is to get an association of a pure devotee, and second one was to work under the guidance of a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master.
So, these easy process, that is a bhakti process of engaging the senses in Krishna's service, is being recommended by Rupa Goswami. That's what
Yes.
the Prabhupada
That's
is
what
concluding.
I
But my point
understand is that
where does Rupa Goswami?
Yes, what I am understanding is that engaging, withdrawing our senses from the object of senses, rather than we should engage to the some superior, param drishtva nivartate. So automatically this withdrawal is...
Our point is, Rupa Goswami nowhere mentions in verse 1 that the Vegas have to be controlled by engaging them in Krishna service.
This is
Are
maybe
you getting this point?
Yes,
But
I got. I exactly got your point, Prabhuji. But
so
what
Prabhupada is saying recommended by Rupa Goswami. Yes, Nandini Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, is this the word dhira which represents this?
Dhira is one who has controlled his senses. One who is able to control his senses is called as a dhira.
So like...
One who is able to tolerate the senses is dhira. But where is that dhira to engage the senses in Krishna's service? So that's why proper purports are deep like an ocean. One has to repeatedly study. And with that, cultivation of sadhana bhakti as sadhana of reading, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. One should hear also very advanced sannyasis giving discourses on Updeshamrit, Bhakti Rasamrita. So, Rup Goswami has recommended of engaging the senses in Krishna service in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam Anukulena Krishna Anushilam Bhakti Ruttama. Or the direct verses from the, Narad Pancharatra. Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. So engaging the senses in Krishna's service, that is devotion. So Prabhupada, is, we have to see, as I mentioned in day one, that how Updeshamrit is a summary of rasa, and the complete science of rasa is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And rasa in action is the two dramas, Lalit Madhava and Vidat Madhava. So that is why Prabhupada is drawing this conclusion from Rup Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Because in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rup Goswami has mentioned how to engage the senses in Krishna service. So after establishing that to control the senses, it is possible only by the process, easy method of bhakti. Now, Prabhupada is going to speak about how the 6 urges specification can happen by bhakti process, which is paragraph 3 to 8. So here, real atonement involves coming to real knowledge by how? Tapasya, brahmacharena, shamina, damena, tyagena, satya, saucha, abhyabhyam, and then yamena, niyameva. And then that highest process is bhakti process. That's what is being concluded here. So that ends the discussion on the first theme, that is atonement. So now we will begin with the 6 urges and pacification by bhakti. Now, Prabhupada has already established that these urges have to be controlled by engaging them in bhakti. So that's the solution. From that angle, now he is going to deal with each of the urges, which will become from paragraph 3 to 8. Now, before I discuss the second theme from paragraphs 3 to 8, are there any questions up till now what we have discussed about this atonement paragraphs 1 and 2? Anyone has any questions? Any questions, any clarifications? Yes, Jitendra Khatri Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji, I was wondering that why Prabhupada started with this atonement only.
Yes, that is what we discussed. Prabhupada's purport seems to begin abruptly. He doesn't start speaking about controlling the Vegas. He gives the background of Srimad Bhagavatam and how Prashchita process is Kunjara Sauchavat has been established there. Prabhupada also speaks about in his purport. And then how real atonement is to come to knowledge, and how to come to knowledge is by these tapasya brahmacharya. But actually, the real atonement is to be in Krishna consciousness. And that is by following the 4 regulative principles and engaging in the service of Krishna. And now, the question of how to control these urges, the urges can be controlled by the process of bhakti. So now he is going to deal with us. The paragraphs 1 and 2 laid the background foundation for discussing how to control these urges. I hope you got it.
Yes, Prabhuji, I got it.
Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so let's now begin with paragraph 3 to 8. Now the first urge about Vacho Vegam. I'm just sharing this entire paragraph is put in the form of slide. Uncontrolled speech, the negative aspect is the materialistic talk and the Mayavadi. And the example Prabhupada gives is frog and snake. It's a croaking of the frog, which invites a snake in the form of death. He compares that. Then he sees a neutral speech of silence, the external process of Mauna, of the Mayavad philosophers. This may be little helpful, but it is not in the long run. Then he says, controlled speech, the positive aspect is do Krishna Katha. And by speaking about Krishna Katha, a devotee can control, speech. So that's how he tells to control this Vacho Vegam. Okay. Prabhupada's paragraph 3. First, one must control his speaking power. The speaking power is a very, very powerful urge in this universe. In fact, just by speech, you can, Hitler by his speech, got the Germans into action, and an entire world war happened. So that was the negative aspect of the power of speech. So this it's vague, you know. It's Vak Shakti, it is called. It's very powerful. Every one of us has the power of speech. And as soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. As soon as, you know, two people meet each other, they just start speaking. That's why there is a 24 gurus, you know, and what all he learned, you know, a lady who had, you know, two bangles, and the bangles make noise. So that's why she wore one bangle. Just give me a minute. Because the two bangles were making noise. So that's the purport that, you know, as soon as we get an opportunity, we begin to speak. If we do not speak about Krishna consciousness, we shall speak all sorts of nonsense. A toad in the field speaks by croaking, and similarly, everyone who has a tongue wants to speak, even if he has to say, even if all he has to say is nonsense. Sometimes people go on and on and on and on speaking absolutely no sense and it just can't stop, you know. That's why eloquence is truth spoken and concise. The croaking of the toad, however, simply invites the snake, please come here and eat me. Nevertheless, although it is inviting death, the toad goes on croaking. In fact, uh, by speaking, in fact, you are draining your energy. Your prana shakti is, you know, weakened, just like by jogging, running, you know, you breathe heavily. So the ayu, according to Ayurveda, is the number of breaths and they are fixed. So by speaking, actually the vata also gets aggravated in the body. So many of the speakers of Krishna Katha have this problem that, you know, their bodily airs get disturbed and then they go for treatment. The doctor suggests that, you know, you have to for some time maintain Mauna Vrata and, you know, reduce the number of discourses you give because it, you know, it is energy. So by speaking, actually you're inviting death, just like the croaking of the toad invites the snake. The talking of the materialistic man and the impersonalist Mayavadi philosophers may be compared to the croaking of the frogs. So that's what the comparison meant. They are always speaking nonsense and thus inviting death to catch them. Controlling speech, however, does not mean self-imposed silence. The external process of mauna, as Mayavadi philosophers think. So there is the negative aspect. The neutral aspect is, you know, I will not speak. Some self-imposed silence. So this is especially in some of the uh, spiritual traditions, there is a lot of encouragement, especially in the Vipassana, you know, just to keep silence, you know. It's an external process. So the Mauna has a different import and meaning, you know. Krishna also speaks about this as a Vibhuti in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Mauna means to be always absorbed in the thought of Krishna. That is also Mauna. No. So this, you know, external process of Mauna will not work. There was one famous, you know, article which had come, or it is there in one of Prabhupada's disciple who has written about, you know, the glory of Prabhupada who came to the West and preached Krishna consciousness. In that book, it is mentioned how a lady in America was had come to India and she was in the Himalayas. She had covered herself, her whole body up till the neck under snow, and for 6 months she was surviving like this without any food, anything, you know. And after her tapasya was over, uh, the reporters came and asked, when you're inside that ice, what were your thoughts going on? And she, being very honest, very sincere, admitted that, you know, she was addicted to drinking coffee in the coffee day shop in America. So always her mind was dwelling that when I'll finish this tapasya and go and drink coffee. So her thoughts were like that. So externally you might keep your mic shut, but internally the mind is thinking. So the real mauna is to always think about Krishna or plan preaching about Krishna consciousness. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately it proves a failure. I gave this example. By contrast, the controlled speech advocated by Srila Goswami is the positive process of Krishna Katha, engaging the speaking process in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. The tongue can thus glorify the name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Lord. The preacher of Krishna Katha is always beyond the clutches of death. What a profound statement. So, if you become a preacher of Krishna Katha, you're beyond the clutches of death. This is the significance of controlling the urge to speak. The urge to speak. Okay. Now, speech has vacha vegam. So the speech is jiva has to do with the gyanendriya and speech has to do with the karmendriya. Please remember that. And speech has two things. Speech stimulates ideas in the mind. It is like it creates a psychological atmosphere, a mental house in which we live. And I can do this, it happened like this in the past. So all these kind of thoughts, speech can create. So that is why if we, contemplate on how to, deliberate on shastras, mananam is very, very important to contemplate the meaning of the shastras. And when we contemplate and we realize, then we can preach, So not just hear, but one has to understand and assimilate it and then preach. So speech stimulates ideas in the mind. So aditi means to hear, and bodha means to have an intellectual insight. So the speech has this first aspect, and then the speech leads to activity like singing, Hari Kirtan, Hari Katha. So it agitates the tactile organ. It agitates the body. So that's why singing, people start dancing. So that subtle sound, uh, the part of that sound, agitates the tactile organ, that is the sense of touch. That's why people start, when you start singing, they start, dancing. So that's why this speech is so important, and that's why one has to use this urge exclusively in the service of Krishna. So here we complete the discussion of speech. Of course, we'll again discuss in detail when we study the Anuvritti Tika. Yes, Jitendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, speech comes under karmendriya. And
Speech,
what comes
correct.
and what comes under Gyanendriya? I was
Jiva, rasa. This is sweet, this is bitter. That is Gyanendriya, na? Rasa. The tongue.
Tongue. Okay.
Okay, so this is about speech. Now, control of the mind. Prabhupada's purport is very, very brief, but actually very, very deep and profound. Prabhupada only quotes this verse, Krishna Surya Sama, Maya hai andhakar, Yahan Krishna, Tahan nahi Maya radhikar. That when there is darkness, there is material thoughts. Mind which is engaged in material thoughts is in darkness or trying to create vacuum. Both these are uncontrolled mind. Both these, in fact, it should have come. I'll have to join this. How to control the mind? Always thinking about Krishna. This is how Prabhupada concludes. Okay, let's see. The restlessness or fickleness of the mind, Manovega, is controlled when one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Savai Mana Krishna Padar Vindayo. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya says, Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Hoya Andhakar, Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Maya Radhikar. Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya is just like darkness. If the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. Similarly, if Krishna is present in the mind, there is no possibility of the minds being agitated by Maya's influence. So that's how precise Prabhupada just concludes his urge of mind. So here there are two things, you know, and we should carefully deliberate. One can, there was one lecture of Prabhupada, in that lecture Prabhupada says, so you can make plans for serving Krishna, but better just chant Hare Krishna, he says. Please carefully hear our statement. Prabhupada in that lecture is saying, so you can make plans for serving Krishna, or better is just chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada is speaking about two levels here. Bhakti yoga practiced at the level of karma yoga. Like, I want to organize a seminar. I have to do a lot of planning to invite the guest speaker, planning for prasadam, devotees arrangement. All this is related to service of Krishna. In one sense, it is bhakti yoga under at the level of karma yoga, not under, at the level of karma yoga. But there is another devotee who is completely absorbed in chanting the holy names. So he is on a higher platform. His mind is fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. So we can engage the mind because this is the mode of passion. Karma yoga means mode of passion. So better than ignorance is the mode of passion, and better than mode of passion is the mode of goodness. So by karma yoga, naturally, when one is purified, then one is in the mode of goodness, then he can focus his mind and steadily sit and chant. So that is what Prabhupada wants to say. So planning for Krishna, making plans for serving Krishna, that means, Krishna is present in the mind in one sense. Or just fixing your mind on Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is on a higher level. Of course, for many it is not possible, only in the morning. That's why in the early morning hours, when there is Satguna, we should try to chant our rounds so that the mind is calm and peaceful and we can hear attentively the mantra. Okay. So mind can be controlled in two ways, by chanting Hare Krishna or by making plans to serve Krishna. I hope you got this. So these are the two levels which we can work on. Again, all this is presented in Bhagavad Gita. I'm just giving a glimpse. So this is about Manovegam. Any questions on this? Any questions, any clarifications on Manovega? Okay, so let's go to now anger. Oh, sorry, I forgot this. There is the yogic process of negating all material thoughts will not help. To try to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. The vacuum will not remain. However, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna best, one's mind will naturally be controlled. So this is what always thinks of Krishna means: chanting Hare Krishna. How to serve Krishna best? It is also doing service for Krishna and planning for Krishna. So that is the best way to control the mind. Again, there are two levels here, which I discussed. Now, the neutral process, especially in the Vipassana, trying to create, to become thoughtless, allow all the trash which is there in the mind to allow it to go away, This is their process. But the trash is so much for millions of lifetimes, how long you'll sit and practice this to throw all the trash out. So, and the dirt is coming also from the external sources, the media, external medium of the external world. So this will not work. It is artificial. The thought that I will not think is also a thought. This is how Jayadvaita Maharaj says. I will not think. That itself is also a thought. So to create a vacuum in the mind is artificial. That's what Prabhupada is saying. That's the point. I hope it is clear. Okay. So now controlling anger. Krodha Vegam. Controlling anger, become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord and the devotees of the Lord. So this is the solution Prabhupada says. And he gives three examples: Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagan Madai, Hanuman Lanka, and Arjun Kurukshetra. Now let us study this a little carefully, the purport, and try to delve a little deeply on this. Similarly, anger can be controlled, Prabhupada says. How? Prabhupada says we cannot stop anger altogether. Please mark this. But if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we can control our anger in Krishna consciousness. So become angry those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord. And then Prabhupada gives these three examples. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreants brothers Jaga and Madai who blasphemed and struck Nityanand Prabhu. In his Shikshashtaka, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Trunadapi suni chaina tarorapi sahishnunam. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. One may then ask, why the Lord exhibited his anger? The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against the offenders. So here is the point. Generally, in the conditioned state, when somebody blasphemes us, we become angry. And somebody blasphemes another devotee, we are tolerant. But here is the opposite thing, that when we are blasphemed, we have to tolerate. But when devotees are insulted, then we should not tolerate that. We should become angry and act like fire. So this is the point. So first example is of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krodha, anger cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. Now this is the second thing Prabhupada is saying about. First thing he said, we cannot stop, but we can become angry at those who blaspheme, and we can control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Then he says it cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. Then he gives this example. It was in anger that Hanuman set fire to Lanka, but he is worshipped as the greatest devotee of Lord Shyamchandra. This means that he utilized his anger in the right way. And the third example of anger Prabhupada gives is Arjuna. Arjuna wanted to be a good person. He did not want to fight his relatives. But Krishna incited his anger, Prabhupada says. Because without being angry, now one cannot fight, right? So Krishna incited his anger, he says. So Prabhupada gives. Arjuna serves another example. He was not willing to fight, but Krishna incited his anger. You must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. Anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of the Lord. So there are three things here. Anger is utilized in the service of the Lord. Then there is anger can be applied rightly, but it can be applied rightly. And the first point is, we can become angry, those who blaspheme, and control anger in Krishna consciousness. So for the first example, he gives Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For applying anger rightly, he gives Hanuman. And then utilization of anger in the right, utilized anger in the service of the Lord, applied rightly and utilization is same. He gives the example of Hanuman. Now, before you ask questions, I'm going to ask questions to you. Prabhupada has spoken about how anger can be utilized in Krishna's service. And he has given three examples: Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hanuman, and Arjuna. So my question to all of you is, can you utilize anger in the service of Krishna? Based on the discussion what Prabhupada is giving in his commentary. Anyone would like to share their thoughts? What happened? Anyone would like to share their thoughts about this? I would like to ask other devotees also. Kalindini Mataji, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Would you like to utilize anger in Krishna's service? There are three examples given by Prabhupada, Chaitanya
Yes.
Mahaprabhu,
Yes, Prabhu.
and Arjuna and Hanuman. Yes, what is your thoughts after reading the purport of Prabhupada? Yes,
Actually,
what are the thoughts?
we can utilize in a service of Krishna means doing in a
Can you
channelizing
speak a
that
little
energy.
loudly, please?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Channelizing that energy in a positive way in a
Pardon?
service. Channelizing that energy
Mhm.
in a positive way in a service of Krishna and in devotees.
You can utilize it.
Yes.
Have you tried ever to utilize anger in Krishna's service?
Not yet, Prabhuji.
Huh?
No, Prabhuji, not yet.
Then
Simply, that time, I just served that time.
Okay. Now, have you seen that if when you become anger, your consciousness is disturbed?
Yes, Prabhu, disturbed.
So if your consciousness becomes affected by the anger, that means you are not a Goswami who is able to utilize anger whenever it is required and withdraw it back. So only a Goswami or a Paramhamsa can utilize this anger. And the examples are who? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hanuman, and Arjuna. All three are liberated souls, eternal associates of the Lord. So the purport here, the deeper understanding here is that anger should be always controlled. Always controlled. And one should never think that I can utilize anger in Krishna's service, because it will fire back as long as you're not on the Paramahamsa platform. What to speak? The whole pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, uh, when his stepmother insulted him, he was like in the fist of anger, Kshatriya blood was boiling in him. And he left to do tapasya. And within 6 months, he attained the Lord and he had become a pure devotee. And after having the darshan of the Lord, he had no desire for anything, but still the Lord said, you go back and rule the kingdom. And then when he heard his brother Uttama being killed by the Yakshas, he immediately became angry. And in that fit of anger, he just started destroying the entire Yaksha dynasty race. So first thing is anger can be utilized, but when you start utilizing anger can go in, very uncontrolled proportions. So one Yaksha had killed his brother, but he was determined. His anger was so much uncontrolled that he was practically destroying the entire Yaksha race. That's what Brahma and Manu came and advised him. And then secondly, the lessons what Prabhupada gives in those purports is that even a liberated soul can become angry. And anger can go in such high proportions. And that is why Prabhupada says in those purports that anger should be always controlled. And there further, it is mentioned that after this pastime was over and he was instructed by Swayambhu Manu, then Dhruva Maharaj went in the forest, again performed tapasya, got further purified, and then only went back to Godhead. So this is the point. So to utilize anger in Krishna's service is a great art. One has to have complete control over anger, utilize that anger for a specific purpose, and immediately withdraw and not be affected at all by it. And it is not possible for ordinary sadhakas. That's why anger has to be controlled at all times. At all times, it has to be controlled. Now, there is a famous pastime during Prabhupada's life. There are many pastimes we know. Prabhupada used to sometimes get very angry at his disciples. There is that famous pastime in Germany when Prabhupada had gone for opening of a temple and nothing was properly arranged. The yajna ingredients were not there, and all the media reporters were there. And Prabhupada was simply firing his disciples. Where are the fruits? And instead of getting the fruits, they got fruit salad for offering in the yajna. Prabhupada was furious. He was least bothered, whether all this is being recorded, because he was seeing that everything is for the pleasure of Krishna. And then, during that time, there was one crazy person who used to come to the temple, and, devotees had told him, you just chant. And they, whenever he used to come up with some proposition, they used to tell, just chant and be happy. So this person was walking by and suddenly he saw Prabhupada was getting angry. He came near Prabhupada, you know, chant Hare Krishna and be happy, he said. And suddenly Prabhupada, took his beads and just started chanting and forgot the whole incident. As though nothing has happened. And there is another instance in India. Prabhupada was invited to speak, where there were other speakers also. This was in a Gita Sammelan. And when Prabhupada came in, he was supposed to speak first, but already the program had started, and already there were some sannyasis. They were all from different disciplines like the Mayavad group and all. So they had already started their talk. So the organizer told Swamiji, you can please sit, and we'll schedule your talk after this talks are over. If you would like, you can sit here or you can go to the room and you can take rest there till we'll call you. So Prabhupada said, no, I'll go to the room. And that room, straight door was facing to the pandal where this talk was going on. And these Mayavadis were speaking, and Hari Sauri Prabhu was Prabhupada's servant. And Prabhupada was walking back and forth, back and forth. And hearing that their philosophy, Prabhupada was boiling in anger, and Hari Sauri Prabhu was really getting tensed. And seeing Prabhupada in this mood, Hari Sauri Prabhu said, my God, what is going to happen? And the organizers called Prabhupada, please come. And Prabhupada immediately walked, and Hari Sauri Prabhu was walking backside, please God, save us, And Prabhupada took the mic and, he just started blasting all these different philosophies, right, left and right, he just cutting, in the fist of anger, And the other saints who were sitting in the stadium, they were furious. The crowd was furious, and they were yelling, shouting, but Prabhupada went on. And one lady, she stood up and said, why you're speaking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu philosophy? Prabhupada made her shut up, sit down. I did not take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name, he said. She was suddenly humbled, And then suddenly Prabhupada, after, there was a huge chaos and commotion. And suddenly, he, made the audience light by, joking, and then finished his talk and he walked away. And, Prabhupada is completely unaffected. So he utilized that anger, he discharged it, and suddenly unaffected, he went away. So only a Paramahamsa can do this. So never we should consider, we have to go deeper into the purports of this. That, maybe Arjuna used anger in Krishna service, I'll also use anger in Krishna service. No. In the first canto, 7th chapter, Ashwatthama is punished. After Ashwatthama is caught, by Arjuna, He's tied by the ropes. His eyes are mentioned as Tamraksha, whereas Krishna's eyes are mentioned as Kamalaksha, like lotus-eyed. So there Prabhupada also mentioned this is the difference between the conditioned soul and the liberated soul. So that's why we should be very, very careful and understand the deeper principles given in Prabhupada's purport and not have a superficial understanding of it. Okay, so that's what we can say about anger in brief. Of course, there is a lot we can speak, but this is in brief. Okay, so yeah, it is 8:10 now. Any questions about this point up till now what we have discussed? Any questions, any clarifications? Okay, so we'll conclude this Prabhupada's purport of the second theme, and then we will take up. Now, Prabhupada takes the Udar and Upastha as it is a compound word by Rupa Goswami. He takes it together. So, controlling the tongue and belly only by taking Krishna Prasad. So, that's what he suggests. As far as the urges of tongue, we all experience the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Yes, the tongue wants to eat palatable dishes. Generally, we should not allow the tongue to eat according to its choice, but should control the tongue by supplying prasadam. The devotee's attitude is that he will eat only when Krishna gives prasadam. That is the way to control the urges of the tongue. Now, this is again a very, very deep and profound statement. I mentioned advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. Attitude of the follower. So the devotee's attitude is that, he is very eager to cook for Krishna, but he's not eager for the mercy. Mercy will come on its own. Just like Madhavendra Puri, he was Ajagarvati. He would not even beg and eat. That is allowed for a bhikshuka, sannyasi. But only if somebody comes and gives, then he will eat. So similarly, our attitude should be that, we'll be eager to go to the deity kitchen and cook for the deities. But then we are detached. Only if the pujari comes and tell, Prabhuji or Mataji, please come and honor prasadam. And then whatever he serves, not that, oh, I have cooked this sweet, so I want to taste it. Not to eat according to our own choice. So this is the attitude which one should have. One should take prasadam at scheduled times and should not eat in restaurants or sweetmeat shops simply to satisfy the whims of the tongue or belly. So this is another principle, eating at scheduled times, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or some, according to Ayurveda principles, even a brunch at say 9:30, 10, and then evening before sunset 4:35. It's very good. So one should eat at scheduled times and should not eat from outside. That's also being mentioned here. If we stick to the principle of taking only prasadam, the urges of belly and tongue can be controlled. If we stick to this principle. Now, the urge of the genitals, Prabhupada again gives it very, very brief, that it is meant for organally begetting Krishna conscious children. In a similar manner, the urges of genitals, the sex impulse, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child, otherwise, they should not be used. That's it. Prabhupada is very clear about this. The Krishna conscious movement encourages marriage not for satisfaction of genitals, but for begetting of Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are little grown up, they can be sent to our Gurukul school where they are trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotees. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offsprings is allowed to use his genitals. Now, Prabhupada concludes, when one is fully practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can be qualified to become a bona fide spiritual master. So, here again, fully practiced means not that he is only having control over Vacho Begam or only Jiva Begam. All the 6 Vegas. And he is fully practiced in these methods of Krishna conscious control. They are Krishna conscious. They are controlled by engaging them in Krishna consciousness. That's the process he suggested. Then one is a Madhyam Adhikari Guru. In fact, he's a Madhyam Adhikari. I mentioned, this verse speaks about Tridandi Swamir Lakshan and Atma Sayami Madhyam Adhikari Lakshan. So even a Madhyam Adhikari who's on the stage of Nishtha is qualified to become a Guru. But one who's on the level of Prema and Bhava, he's a Uttam Adhikari and he is qualified to make disciples all over the world. That's the point. Okay, so we have completed this discussion and we will take up this next paragraph, Anuvritti experiences, tomorrow. So any questions, any clarifications up till now? Yeah, Nandini Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam. Prabhuji, at home, we usually cook what we like. It's not like, and then we offer and then we honor.
Okay.
So, like, according to this, like, it should not be out of like our pleasure or what we want. It should be what Krishna wants.
Yes. That is a very high level of Krishna consciousness. That's right. At home, we have deities. So once I had gone with a senior devotee for an evening program. And when we just entered their house, there was first kirtan and then lecture. So the Mataji at home, came and asked the senior devotee, Prabhuji, what would you like to have prasadam? He just mentioned very casually, whatever the deity is like, you can offer it. Very casually he said. She just could not understand what it meant. That means, we have to come to a point where we can ask the deities what they like today and then cook for the deities' pleasure and then have whatever deities have had prasadam. That's it. That's a very elevated level of Krishna consciousness. But that's the standard we have to come to. Of course, at the homes, usually the wives cook what the husband likes. That is also at one level okay. It is good standard, I can say. But if you come to the level where you cook what the deities like, and then just have what the deities had, then that should be a standard. Suppose I have seen this many times. Suppose you forget to offer or put salt in some preparation and you offer it to the deities, and the deities have to tolerate having it without salt. But when the bhoga comes and the prasad comes and then you start having it and you find that there is no salt, at least you should tolerate for that one meal to have it, because the deities had it, they tolerated it, so let me tolerate. But generally we ask for salt and mix and eat. Why? The deities also had that. How must have they felt? So this should be our consciousness, and gradually we should come to that standard, what Prabhupada is saying. Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has? So we'll begin the Anuvritti explanation tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Updeshamrit ki jai, Shri Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Hare Krishna.